Why do you feel stuck even when you know so much? It's not your stuck, it's your state. For builders who nailed the tech and now face the rest, this is UNCODED, translating tech into profit. Good evening, my friend. This is UNCODED. And this evening I have Angelo Ponzi with me. Angelo is a fractional CMO. He's an experienced manager in marketing. He lives out of California. He is of Italian origin, which is, a good addition for me. And this evening we will talk a little bit about marketing strategy, about AI in marketing, and what is the contribution of marketing scheme in the management of startup and small company, because this is an interesting topic. So I was attracted by the profile of Angelo because he was talking about fractional marketing officer, and what is the contribution of this profile, this role in companies, a small company. Can you tell me a little bit about it, Andrew?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
So, thank you very much.
If you think about fractional, and probably another simple way to look at it is part-time. So when I'm hired as a fractional, basically companies are hiring me and buying a fractional piece of my time. So let's assume I work 40 hours a week, which is not true. It's probably more like 50 or 60, but that's okay. And they're going to say, I want 8 hours a week of your time based on what we want to accomplish. And then I might say, well, that sounds more like 10 hours, or frankly, that sounds like 5 hours, not 10. I have a call with somebody who wants like 2 days of my time a week, and there's no way that they can utilize that. So then we negotiate. And so the beauty of a fractional is without touting my own horn, is somebody like myself who has years of experience, decades of experience, that you can bring in for a fraction of the cost than if you tried to hire me. And I think that's the beauty. So you're getting that knowledge, that skill set, that experience that you could bring to bear, whether it's a startup or a small business or even a medium-sized business. I work with a lot of medium-sized businesses as well that don't have a strategic leader. And so when I get in there, I'm a holistic marketer in the sense that I don't just do marketing. I get into business aspect. Why? Because I need to know how everything in the company works. You think of it as a puzzle, right? If you miss a piece of puzzle, the puzzle doesn't have a clear picture. So I need to know from a marketing standpoint, if sales is doing great, do we have the inventory that can actually fulfill the orders? And if we don't, what's it going to take? Because I'm also worried about brand reputation. So I focus on that side. And so I do a lot of market research, qualitative and quantitative, predictive modeling, and secondary research, deep dives internally. And we can talk about a little case study about what that yields when you do that, because if you've got any kind of history, that data is really important. And if you don't have it, then you need to lay the metrics to make sure you capture that data. And then based on that, and talking to customers and things like that, we're able to create positioning and messaging strategies. How are we going to define ourselves in the market? And then ultimately, companies are like, well, we want to be whatever, $10 million, $50 million in 3 years. We might as well throw a dart against the wall. Okay, how are we going to get there? And so we need to come back, kind of deconstruct that concept and say, okay, here's how we can get there. Might not get there in 3, it's going to take you 5, but here's the kind of the structure that to get you there. And so that's the strategic side, the strategy side of it. And then ultimately there's how do we execute? And execute could be social media, it could be television, it could be trade shows, it could be hiring salespeople, opening up distribution channels across the country. So there's a lot of tactical things that support that ultimate goal. And so for me then, I'm developing those strategies, providing the information, and then sometimes working with their internal teams to make sure they're executing and staying on plan and on strategy. And just in a nutshell, if you will, that's kind of my role and what the role of a fractional is.
You see, I see myself a lot in this kind of scheme. Also, I've been, although I never call it fractional, but I've been having, position as a fractional innovation manager, for example. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, well, first of all, I don't know if it is the same for you, but going on with the age, our age increase, I feel myself a little bit unwilling to remain too much too much in a company, in a too much stable way, in a too stable way. It is something that I prefer not to do because, mostly when this happened with the small company, I feel that sometimes the management, the top management of this company is not mature enough to really grasp the contribution that I give. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't even notice very important things. It is very clear for me why you talk about strategy, because the young guys, young manager, they are very impassioned. They run all over the place, but they don't realize that they have to stick to something and they have to build. Do you see the same kind of situation in your experience?
Well, I see it as not just young managers. It's all sorts of folks, right? I'll work with a company that might be in business for 20 years, and they've been successful. But we have to look not what they did, but where we're going, and they're calling me for a reason. So if everything was still great, you wouldn't call me. And so we have to understand what the problems are. If revenues and sales are turning down, what's the problem? We don't know what the problem is. Is it the sales team? Is it the market is changing? Is it competition? Well, unless you really know that, you can't create a strategy to solve that problem. And so it's not, my goal is for companies not to be reactive but proactive, and to really spend that time to understand. Like I'm still working on it, but I just finished a research study for a company, and they sell through a dealer network. And they got a bunch of dealers. But we were able to determine, based on the hierarchy of their dealer network, how much of their, not even their product, but their types of products, so all competitors, contributes to the dealer's revenue. So you could sit there and say, well, these dealers aren't selling my product or my services, but at the end of the day, your products and services in the entire industry only make up 5% of their revenue. So by knowing that, now that can help create a strategy. Is like, how do I get them to sell one more a month, one more a year? Is going to change my opportunities. Who are they representing? If they're representing 15 companies, we got a problem. If they're representing us and 2 other companies, now I need to figure out how do I become the lead recommended company versus the others. But if we don't know that, we can't do it. And in this particular case, this company's been around for 20 years. And this was we're giving them insights on how to create that strategy. And so that's, to me, is the more important than anything. And I work with companies, I say for the most part, I've been pretty lucky, I'll call them, say successful, lucky to get leadership to understand. But to your point, a lot of times, I'm making these recommendations and I'm backing it up with facts. Not what I think, it's what the market thinks, what your customers think. And then they don't want to listen. And it's like, well, why'd you bring me in if you're not going to listen to me? That's what the whole thing. I worked in an industry, we call it action sports. It's surfing and skateboarding and snowboarding. I remember one time I was working with all these folks from a television network out of New York, and at the end they went, "Well, these kids don't know what they're talking about. We don't believe them." It was like, I've been doing this for 10 years with these kids. They know what they want, and you're making a huge mistake. And they didn't listen. They didn't listen to the kids. They didn't listen to me. They did what they wanted to do, and their launch of a new television network failed. And it wasn't until a new group came in and read all the data and changed it that they launched a successful one. And so again, it's like, why bring me in? Why ask me to do all this, spend all that money if you're not going to listen to me?
It drives me crazy sometimes. Do you feel that? Do you feel that? Sorry. Do you feel that this is something that is arising from this, from the latest technology culture that is now within companies? The space that technology is consuming inside the company create an attitude for things to go fast, to do things fast, to do things no matter what you are doing. You have to do it, and in a brave way. Do you think that this was the case back then, 20 years ago, or because I realize I have an idea that the external environment, everything is conditioned by the external environment, as you know very well in strategy. But I think that the external environment is pushing company to become light in what they do. They don't understand that they have to choose the place where to compete. Now, the place where to compete is not something that gets out of an idea while you are sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that you agree with me, or you think that it doesn't matter.
Well, I call it, in regardless of the size of the company or the industry, it's working on your business versus in your business. When we're in it, we're doing the busy work, right? We're executing, we're manufacturing. But working on it means we're stepping back and really looking at a variety of influences, not only on the business, but also on your customer base. Could be competition, it could be politics, it could be financial, it could be just a lot of outside pressures in a sense. And you really have to understand which ones are changing those dynamics. For me, and I'm going to say something simple, it's texting, right? There was a period of time when you wanted to talk to a customer, you picked up the phone. Mm-hmm. Then we started emailing. Now we text. And if I text you and you don't get back to me in a few minutes, what's wrong? I just texted him, right? So there's that instantaneous response that we look for. AI is exacerbating that even more so, because now we can go, I'll just go on ChatGPT, I'll type in a few structure, a couple comments, or maybe a poorly written prompt, and it'll spit out a bunch of stuff, and I take that as gospel and I run with it. And that's a huge mistake that I think companies are making. 2 years ago, I was giving a presentation, and one of the guys in the group of us was a digital marketing agency. And he said, I fired all my copywriters this week, and I'm only using AI, ChatGPT, to write all my blogs. Now, the other digital marketing person in the room, and then myself, were like, what? Because it's not quite there yet. We're inundated, and I've been working with AI now for about 9 months. And more than AI, but agentic AI, so creating agents and things like that. And it's not there. It's a tremendous investment to get to what you need to do. And I've got some friends that are having some great success, but we're talking, $150,000 to build something that really works. We're in the process right now with a small group building an e-commerce package, and it's a multi-agent package, and at the end of the day, it's going to probably cost $100,000+ just to build it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, we're not just taking ChatGPT, and I've seen this before too. Every day I get emails about, you know, how they're going to solve my world by selling me these tools, and all they're doing, I call it skinning. They're skinning ChatGPT. They're coming up with prompts. They're putting a face on it and say, here's my app or here's my engine. Well, I can do that myself. So I think there's certain industries that it's going to have a bigger impact or a quicker impact versus other industries. Literally 2 months ago in a networking group I belonged to, there was 50 business leaders. I surveyed them, and we're all trusted advisors. Mm-hmm. So I said, how many of your clients are using AI in a productive way? Simple. Only 6% said they were. Yeah. Then I said, of those that were not, how many of your clients are investing in AI right now? And only another 10% said they were. So, and those were a variety of businesses, but focused in distributors and manufacturers. So even companies that are being smart about it are taking their time and digging into it, versus a lot of, you know, people. I see it all the time now. It's like I get an email, or I get an article somebody wants me to publish on my website, and I can tell it's riddled with, being written by AI. Yeah. And so I think that is it going to influence? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be tomorrow? Partially. But it's going to take time to get it to where you really, really want. But the idea of agentic AI is really cool because, you know, you're talking bot-to-bot communications. And if you think about centralized, so within my company, my bot can go talk to the accounting bot and to the manufacturing bot. But it's decentralized agent-to-agent communications that I think will really be incredible. That means my bot can talk to your bot. It could talk to a bot in China, right? And we can do all this stuff, and you and I are off doing something else. So I think that's where the ultimate will go. But every day, I mean, just, you know, ChatGPT came out with 5.0 or something yesterday. Claude came out. Gemini's pumping out stuff left and right. You know, Gronk just came out with something new. You know, so there's this kind of race for the platform. But in a company I worked with and did some consulting with, they had a great platform, but they didn't have any applications. Mm-hmm. And the market, the research I did and the plans I put together says the industry wants applications. They want a quick way to get applications. And so I think that's where the disconnect is right now. Lots of platforms, lots of tools, but lack of sophistication and how to make them work.
Yeah, I think that, you know, agentic AI is absolutely a nice thing, a really incredible things. But, you know, it is very difficult to do it like you said, because still the limitations are very high. Agent, as far as I saw, are small applications which are sometimes closed in their small space. They are not able to really cooperate with anyone else because they are written as a software was written. Mm-hmm. It was, you know, a process view of something. So I call this the orchestration agent, the age of orchestration with agent, because, you know, in order to be really good, I don't need to tell them what to do. They should understand what to do and how to do it with the other agent.
Right.
And we are still very far from that.
We're far from that too, because even when you train the brain, if you will, with an agent, tomorrow there's new data. And I think that people are getting a little desensitized because of chat or Claude or Gemini, right? They just can go in the chat and they could type what they want and they'll get data back. But if you look at true kind of a data set of agentic AI or building an agent to really do work, it's a giant workflow, a lot of if thens and ands, right? And so that's why it takes time and takes a lot of money. A friend of mine in the digital world, she's a Google partner, and so one of their clients is in the hotel industry. They sell, the privacy hangers and the coffee pods and all that kind of stuff. So they built a bot that can interface with you when you call. And so it pulls up your records. It knows all your purchases. It can consult with you. It can say, well, you're going through your coffee mates, whatever, coffee pods at a much greater rate. That means business is up, or theft is going on, whatever the two happen to be. And, here's what I recommend. And it's unbelievable what this thing does. But
absolutely.
Well, she didn't tell me the price. She just said it was very expensive, took time to train it and get it to the point where it could actually work.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back to the entrepreneurs and the managers in companies and so on, one of the best things that AI brought me in the last 2 years is a renewed capability of thinking with someone. One of the use that I make the most of AI is to think with it, to discuss with it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it is very good in exploring and expanding views, which is something that in company we don't do anymore. Yeah, because we execute things that have been decided somewhere, maybe not in a wise way. So I have a lot of fun in proposing point of view and discussing point of view, and then getting back, trying to find a mistake in the reasoning and so on.
Mm-hmm. Well, in our kind of pre-talk, when we were talking about AI and usage, I actually wrote down right here, ideation, which is what you're talking about. And that's a great way to use this tool, is for ideas. For example, I'm looking at what are potential blogs that one of my clients can implement. Mm-hmm. And so I'm having it ideate against not their current blogs, but what are trending, what are topics, what are of interest, and I'm using a variety of sources to try to determine in that industry what are the hot buttons, what are the trends based on competitive sets and all of this. And it's exploring, it's analyzing, and it's coming back with, well, we think this, or this is the recommendation where you could focus to drive more traffic. And then now you have to say, okay, now let me go test it. Is this, so I go into I use multiple solutions to test these ideas and start to see, am I getting the same results, that kind of stuff. So that, for me, that's kind of cool. The other where I use it a lot is as a fractional CMO. In my background's research, I also get lots of research reports. Yeah. And sometimes they're 150 pages, and it's like, oh man, the last thing you really want to do is try to stay awake reading 150 pages of somebody else's research. So I might use it to go analyze it and bring out the highlights and things like that.
Amplify.
Yeah, amplify it. Thank you.
Amplify. This sentence with the ideation is very nice. I've been working a lot in ideation. One of the projects that gave me the most pleasure from a professional point of view was in the first 10 years, 2007, in S3 Microelectronics, which is a microconductor company, European microconductor company, is half Italian and half French one, and they promoted an ideation project which was incredibly successful, and that was the reason why I stopped doing traditional process-based consulting, engineering and so on, and I start to do only innovation. Nowadays, I've been talking with some of my past colleagues. Nowadays, there are companies that do ideation, not ideation, but actually testing of ideas fully automatically with the AI agents, which is, very, very nice, because although innovation obviously starts with idea, normally the problem with innovation in large corporation is that it takes a hell of a lot of time and resources to test the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So with this tool nowadays, it's pretty simple, because the testing is a process which is quite bounded, is restricted in a process. So you can it can work it really pretty well.
But I think for your listeners, if they're thinking about setting up ideation or innovation groups, is having leadership, number one, bless it, and number two, somebody to lead it. Because a lot of times, and this was a few years ago, I convinced a client that we needed to do this, so for technology purposes, and there were like 5 people in it, and nobody was in. It was the Wild West. I knew I wouldn't be there forever, so it had to be somebody else leading it, and it just never happened. And I think that's where companies get a little off is figuring out what the group, but who's responsible, and who can you hold responsible to make sure that things are getting executed the way they are. So I think that's the one downside, because again, it's just ideas, and you're bringing these conceptual ideas to your leadership and saying, hey, this is a direction we could go, or here's a new service we could offer, or a new product that now might cost, to your point, lots of money to execute, right? And so just can't be an idea, you have to support it. And I think that's where I find when I do consulting with a lot of startups at some of the universities, and entrepreneurs, and we're entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs that, especially in the tech world or new product, is they fall in love with it, and they don't want to listen, which is part of our conversation, right? And they don't think things through. I was working with this one company that had an interesting idea, and my first question was, did you do any market research to support? Oh yeah. I talked to my mom and my dad and my sister, my uncle, my cousins, and they all said it was a great idea. And I said, well, of course they were going to tell you it's a great idea. They're not going to tell you not, right? They don't want to discourage you. And I think that's where sometimes it gets a little sticky in some of these startups, is they can't see the forest through the trees. Why? Because they love what they're doing, and they're convinced it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's not, or you've got to test it. I mean, I've been fortunate to help companies launch new products, but I've actually helped kill some before it went to market because it was going to fail. So anyway.
Well, testing idea is a pretty tough job. I agree with you. When I was younger, I was a strong believer in ideation. With the experience, I become a strong believer in execution of ideation. But I have a story about ideation, which is related to your job, and is one of the table in this project with this company, this European microconductor company. There was a team of guys that had experimented a strange device, which was a stick able to move in various degree, and there was an app which was reading the movement, and they were showing this device to everybody, because actually the device was nice, was effective, but it had no application whatsoever. And so I was in the team that had to decide how to, you cannot say to a team, no, this is bullshit, go away from here. You have to kind of, manage the situation so that the idea get dropped and the idea that have more chance to success go on. And I had the problem to tell the story to these guys, but they were so enthusiastic that it was difficult for me to stop them. One day, out of the blue, a guy from a Chinese factory came to participate to the table. And they showed this stick and they show what he was able to do and so on and so forth. At a certain point, he started to look, this guy coming from China started to look the other and at a certain point asked, do you know what badminton is? And all of them say, no, we don't know. What is badminton? Well, badminton is a game that is very much played in Asia. In Asia, there are 600 million players of badminton. And this could be a simulator of badminton because, you know, you are able to sense the inclination, you are able to sense the velocity and so on. And this thing was for me incredible because I realized that, you know, what we see is not always what we really see because there is nothing to see sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Which does not mean that you don't have to do your market research.
Well,
it's exactly the opposite.
Exactly.
It depends on how you want to frame your market research, but that is also a decision that you have to take. And by the way, this project took us 6 months. In 6 months, we start up 40 company, and the board of director took 1 year and a half to decide where to put all this company. So it was faster to build them than to manage them. But this is another story. Okay, we completed our interview, Angelo. So I'm very happy because I got a lot of fun with you, discussing with you. I hope to have the chance to interview you again in 1 year from now to make the point of where we are right and what is happening around us in this space between marketing and AI strategy and so on.
That would be great.
Okay.
That would be great.
Can
I make a shameless plug?
Sorry?
Can I make a shameless plug?
Yes, please.
So it's probably backwards, but this is my new book. It's on Amazon. It's called The Strategy Blueprint. And it really talks about creating value, driving revenue, and from a strategic standpoint. And it's laid out so it's very tutorial and as a guide. At one point in time, we were calling it a workbook or a guidebook, but we changed it to Blueprint. So it's been out a couple months, and it's on Amazon. And then anybody wants to connect with me, LinkedIn is the best way to do it.
Okay, I will publish this episode probably at the beginning to middle September. In the meantime, I will read the book and I will let you know what I think about it. It is for sure a very nice book, I am sure. In the meantime, thank you very much for this interview, and I hope to see you soon for another interview. Or if it happens that you come in Italy, please let me know and we'll try to take a coffee sometime.
I will do that. My wife wants to go to Lake Como, so.
Oh, very nice. Very nice place indeed.
Our son just came back from there, so she's excited to go there now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good evening.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode. Follow the show so you don't miss any episode. And remember, for those looking for the secret sauce, there is none in the soup.